Slightly different.
Yes, slightly different because it's Halloween.
Halloween.
We're spooked. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. It's an interesting kind of day. And you'll notice that our color is slightly different and askew because we needed, you're green. It makes it very hard. But welcome, Peter Pan.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Fairy Godmother, and sorry
Yes.
for our voices.
Neither one of us has voices because we were at the All Ghouls Gala on Saturday night, and it was very fun, and I think both of us were very taxed and loud, and
We talked to 400-something people.
yeah, for a long time. But it was really fun, and we're going to talk about it, and we even have some video to show you. But we want to welcome you here to the show. Even though it's Halloween and we're celebrating that and we're in costume, we're still going to get to questions. Our topic today is Halloween and other scary holidays.
Right.
Because sometimes the holidays are really, really scary.
Of course.
And so we're going to talk about all of that, and you guys can be writing in right now. We're live right now, thanks to the amazing Chris Desmond, on Facebook, YouTube, and a bunch of other sites. And he may or may not be able to show you where we're live on because we've had to adjust a bunch of things this morning to accommodate the green screen. But you should know that whenever we do the show, we go live, like I said, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. Then later on, the show is a podcast available wherever you get your podcasts, whatever platform you're on. It's free to you. It does come with advertising because that's how we keep the lights and the cameras on. And we hope that you will enjoy those sponsors and listen to their wonderful messages because they're helping us to keep going. If you prefer not to hear the sponsors and you'd like to pay a little extra, and some of you wrote to us and said you would like to do that, you can do that by going to glow, GLOW, .fm/Autism Live. I had to think for just a second. When you do that, you will get both the Autism Live podcast and the Ask Dr. Doreen podcast without, you pay for $5 a month, or cheaper if you want to do it across an entire year. You will get those links to download wherever you want to get your download, and it will be sans advertising, which is very cool if you want to pay for that. And if you don't, please partake everywhere else. We hope that you will enjoy whichever way you prefer to do. I do want to say that if you are not doing the subscription one where you get it for with ad-free, you want to make sure that you've subscribed to both Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen because they come separately now. So make sure that you've subscribed to both of them. They are their own podcasts at this point on the Autism Network. Have I left anything out? I do want to say that this show, even though it's Halloween and we're dressed up and a little silly, that Dr. Grampy will be here answering your questions from around the world. And some of you have already written in. We hope that more of you will write in. But there is no expert in this format of any kind that could give individually specific advice. That would be asking too much, and it would be a disservice to the expert and to the person that we're talking about or to.
Right.
So please understand that if you have a question to ask, be as specific as possible. Know that Dr. Grampy will answer your question in some very general terms, but we've learned over the last 13 years that's really helpful, helps you to go back to the experts who have eyes on the situation and ask the right question to get the right answer. Please give us as much information as you can, including what the closest major city is, because we know that this is not a level playing field, and what is available to someone in San Diego is not what's available to somebody in Louisville, Kentucky.
Right.
Unfortunately, I long for the day when this is not the case, but for right now, we want to be able to tell you the closest resource. So that helps both of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
know-
And the needs of the children are different, right? So
Well,
there are different people in different places.
Absolutely. Yes. We always say not one size fits all. Okay, so do we want to talk about the All Ghouls Gala for just a minute?
Sure,
'Cause
absolutely, yeah.
So this is what I wore, but this is not what you wore. Tell them.
I was John Lennon, and I'm sure there are lots of pictures online. And we had a fantastic time. Of course, we had Dr. Temple Grandin there, which was really wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people were so excited, including myself. And then we had Ariva Martin, of course, who we honored, and Joe Mantegna, who was wonderful, always wonderful, and so nice to see him and his family there. So we had a great time, and we had, I think, Something between 450 to 500 people. It was a lot of
There's a
people.
lot of people.
It was a pretty big venue, fortunately, so
Yeah.
people were pretty spread out. Lots of fun activities. We had, of course, fortune tellers and a caricaturist and a 360 phone booth or a picture booth.
Right.
I didn't get to do any of those because
Me
I was
neither.
just busy saying hello to people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
me
was a
neither.
wonderful night.
We should like have a meeting before the party starts
And
where
do
we
all
all
everything,
go
yeah.
do the
Yeah.
things. But yes, and there was a costume contest
Costume contest, yes.
and food and drink and a red carpet. It was a lot. And there were people, and Dr. Grandin was there signing books and
That's
talking to
right,
people.
that's right.
And afterwards, it was so funny because when people were talking about the party and sort of deconstructing it, and somebody would say, "Oh, you know, the thing that I really loved was I went in and got my fortune read," and somebody said, "I didn't even get to that room. What do you
Yeah.
mean?" Because
Yeah.
it was kind of like if you went to a haunted house, that there
Yeah,
were
it was
different
pretty
rooms with different attractions, and it sort of went on and on and on, and people were like, "What else is there?"
Yeah.
And one comment that somebody said to me was, like, there was no opportunity to be bored. There was so much to do.
There was a lot to do, for sure. Yeah, I didn't even, it took me at least maybe the first hour before I exited the first room.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to get to the photo booth, but the 360, but it took a long time.
People were having, if you go on Autism Care Today's Facebook or Instagram, you will lose your mind looking at all the pictures. We're going to show you a video that shows you some of it. But they have the whole reel from the 360 booth, and
Oh.
it's a screen.
Oh, wow.
It's
I
a
haven't
total
seen
screen.
that. That's
Because you get to see
awesome.
like 2 seconds of not everybody who was in the booth, because they did not include my husband and my son. But I never made it to the booth, but they went without me. But one of the things that they had this year for the photo booth was, it was in this bubble enclosure, but they had the guns that shoot dollar bills.
Yeah.
And so people were shooting dollar bills at each other.
Right.
It's hilarious, you guys. And included in it, you wouldn't know unless I told you, but Joe Mantegna and his family are included in it.
Oh, are
But he has his things zipped up so that you can't tell it's him.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You'll see when we show the video what it was that
That's
he was
awesome.
wearing. But it's really funny, and I don't think that we got Dr. Grandin into the 360 booth, although I meant to. But she did get a caricature drawn at
Oh, nice.
and the artist, when she arrived and she was looking at everything, and she was like, "Wait, Dr. Temple Grandin is going to be here?" And we said, "Yeah." And she said, "Is there any possibility that I can draw her?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sure." You know, and so the whole party, I kept trying to find, and they did it without me. They found the way, because at the end of the party, I was like, "Oh no, I failed at this. We failed to make this happen." And the caricature artist, she was like, "What are you talking about? It was amazing." She came and she said it was the thrill of a lifetime for me. So
Oh, that's so nice.
really fun. It was so.
Did Temple have fun, do you think?
Oh no, I talked to her the next morning at
Oh,
breakfast,
great.
and she was like, "This was a good time."
Oh, I'm
Like,
so glad.
I really feel like if we invited her just to come back as a guest next year, that she would, if she was available, I think she would come, because she was just laughing hysterically at the whole thing. This is how crazy things, we had set up a whole sensory room, and we had set up her books there for her to have quiet conversations with people and sign the books. She went in and she was like, "Yeah, this isn't going to work. I want to be where the people are."
Yeah.
And she said to Rachel Bird and somebody else who was there with her, she was like, "Ladies, let's pick up the books." And she moved
was
herself into
amazing.
the ballroom,
Yeah,
right next to the DJ, and she held court all night long and loved it.
She's amazing.
And she was so proud because they were selling the books and her autographs as a fundraiser
Yeah.
for the charity, and she was so proud at the end of the night. She was like, "Look at how many of these that I sold." Now, I want to tell everybody, we have 5 of the signed books left.
Wow.
So anybody in the next week that makes a donation to Act Today over $30, you will be entered in a raffle to win one of those 5 books that we will then ship directly to you. So there is a link. It is on the Act Today Facebook and Instagram page, and you'll read all about what the rules are. It has to be more than $30.
Right.
But you can win one of those signed copies. There are 4 copies of Calling All Minds and 1 copy of Visual Thinking. that are left that she signed, but she was so happy.
That's wonderful. That's a lot of books that she sold there. That's amazing.
And she was thrilled, and she had great conversations.
She was amazing. I had a lot of good time with her. I did. I spent a lot of time with her, and I had a great conversation.
And she was in
lovely.
good spirits. She was.
I
always know, when you're around Dr. Grannon and she's laughing, it's just she giggles like a girl,
Yeah.
And to see that side of her just makes me happy. And she got to meet the soup Nazi, and she was super thrilled about that.
I was so happy about that, too. Everybody was. We were having a great time talking to him.
Yeah. And she was also excited because Maureen McCormick, who was Marcia on the Brady Bunch.
I didn't see her.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Because Maureen brought her brother, who is an adult.
On the spectrum?
I don't know that he's on the spectrum. I don't know what, but he, is somebody who needs support in his life.
Right.
And he was such a delight. And he was having such a good time.
That's so great.
And she was there with her husband and her brother, and
wonderful.
She was so gracious. She sent us an email yesterday and said,
"Oh, nice.
Thank you so much for including my brother." And I'm gonna cry. It was so sweet. I got to hang with him while she was taking pictures, because first they took pictures on the red carpet of the whole family, and then she and her husband went and took pictures, and I got to hang with Denny.
He how
was
nice.
Such a delight.
Yeah.
And it was just such a privilege to get to, what a lovely family.
Wonderful.
Lovely family.
We had a lot of celebrities there this year, actually. It was pretty impressive.
It was really amazing.
It was wonderful.
Super fun. We loved, you guys probably know from Abbott Elementary, I always forget his first name. I think it's William Stanford Davis, because everybody I know calls him Stan. But he plays the janitor on Abbott Elementary. He's a hoot, and he is apparently Mr. Disco King from the 60s. So he was having a good time dancing with his wife. They were super sweet.
That was wonderful.
So many celebrities. It was really wonderful. Do you want to say what your favorite thing was at the...
I had a good time with a lot of it. I mean, I think, there was a huge casino, which I barely got to see. I guess I don't know, I loved watching Logan at the casino. That was kind of nice. I had a very long conversation with Soup Nazi. I loved how he told me some backstories, which, you never know those backstories. And it was a lot of fun hearing that. But he also said, I don't really know why the world thought that it was so funny that I would say, no soup for you. I was like, are you kidding me? That's like one of the best things out of Seinfeld,
It is.
And you know what else? The prizes, I was really happy. Like one of my son's best friend was with us, and he, at the very beginning of the night, he was saying, God, I hope I can win the golf prize, which was like $1,000 for golf. And he did win it.
He was one of our interns back in the day.
Yes, he was,
for a hot minute, and very talented young man.
Yeah.
And of course, then, there were people, everybody had one table that they were really excited in winning. And Joe's daughter really wanted to win the beauty table.
Oh.
Really wanted to win the beauty table, and she was feeling lucky, and they had to leave, so they left their tickets with me. And then I got very busy, and I said to Rachel Bird, I said, Kobe's mom, I said, can you man these tickets for me? And she was like, of course, because Rachel is just the soul of responsibility.
She was amazing, by the way, yeah.
She is. She's amazing.
Goodness.
So then it was time for Temple to, she was on Denver time, and her plane hadn't taken off on time. She had flown in the night before, got home, back home in Colorado. Was getting back on a plane the next morning to come to us.
I didn't even know that. Bless her.
And the plane, it started to snow in Denver. I went to graduate school in Denver, so this did not surprise me. But the engine froze because they didn't have the ice machines out yet, because they were caught with their pants around their ankles. And so they switched planes, and they did a vote on the plane. They said, we can take off now without food. There's no food, not a cracker
told me this,
on this plane, or we can wait 2 hours and and they unanimously voted on the plane to go without food.
Yeah.
But so she arrived half-starved, exhausted, right? But had a wonderful time. We had people taking care of her during the afternoon. She went to dinner with people that just loved her. and arrived. So I thought by 9:15, which is going to be 10:15 her time, she was going to be done. No, 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 no. She was having a great time. But then when she finally hit the wall, she was like,
I have to go.
I think I need to go now. And it was right at a time when the person that I had assigned to do it couldn't.
Oh.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to find somebody responsible who's had nothing to drink
To take you home. Which is hard,
and
yeah.
I turned, and there were the Asners, and I said, Matt, have you had anything to drink? And he was like, I don't drink. And I said, can you take, and he said, well, I'm going to win the coach bags. Like, what happens if I leave? And I said, I will watch your tickets, Matt.
Okay.
Take Temple Grandin to the hotel. He's like, you
Did they
promise
put a
me?
bunch of tickets into the coach bag? Is that what they did?
It was this line of tickets, right?
Okay.
And he goes, and I'm winning the coach bags. And I said, uh-huh. But I took the tickets, and then, of course, another emergency came up, and I said to Rachel Bird, I said,
you
can
got to
mail
man them
these
all.
tickets? And so she's got Mia's tickets, Mia Montaigne's tickets, which are long, and then she's got this row of tickets for the Asners. And I went out into the hallway because we were judging the costume contest to be ready when this was done, and I heard the first numbers for the coach thing, and I said, oh, they might have won that. And sure enough, here comes Rachel, and she goes, they won!
Yeah,
They won the coach
yeah.
bags. So we called them, and they came back, and Nava was so excited. She didn't know whether to be more excited about the fact that she got to take Temple Grandin back to the hotel.
So they came back? And
I
they took
texted them.
Temple and came back.
I
Got
texted
it.
them, and I said, you have to come back. You won the coach bags.
Oh.
And I said, and I can't be responsible for
I
where
see.
they are tomorrow. You have to come back. But Nava, it was so funny. She was like a little girl. She was like, I'm so excited that I got to take Temple to the hotel. And her brother Izzy is from Surfers Healing.
Yes.
And has always wanted to meet Temple. So they FaceTimed in the car with Izzy. So she was like, this was an amazing gift. And she goes, and I get the coach bags?
Izzy himself is amazing.
I know. But so we were stuffing the coach bags into their Ed Asner Family Center van and going, and here's another one, and here's another one. And she was like a kid in a candy store. She was like, I won the coach bags. And Matt said, I knew we were going to win them.
That's awesome. But
like,
do we know who won the beauty table? Did Mia
I
win?
don't know who won but it wasn't Mia.
Okay.
So, but.
Well, so we should find out what it was on that table that she liked and try to get that for her.
Well, and I said to her, I said, what do you like on the table? And she said, everything. Because, you know,
she loves makeup.
Mia is somebody who did makeup for a while. Now she's an artist. But that was something that she was, she studied with Joey Travolta and was doing makeup. So, you know, we're going to talk to her about if we can do something with her.
Wonderful.
And I made sure that they got gift bags because we had that amazing lip gloss in the gift bags.
And
did you try?
And all the shampoos.
Oh my gosh, Chaz Dean Wen, who is always the kindest person to us and gives us, I mean, bigger than the full size.
Yeah,
like a
huge.
gallon size thing of his very special shampoo, and plus we had a full size perfume.
And I want to thank you because I didn't even get to see the gift bags and who handed the swag bags. I didn't, you know, I worked on putting them together, but I never saw what happened. So thank you very much for taking care of that so that people leaving got bags.
We had a couple of volunteers from CARD that were amazing.
Wonderful.
That were moving bags while we were doing the award ceremony. But then I have to say that my husband and my son worked that swag bag station like amazing Boy Scouts, and they had some help from Chris Desmond and from Jackson Boyles.
Okay, great.
And you know who else was amazing was Debbie Redmond.
She really was. Yeah, Debbie's always comes through and helps.
And she helped with the swag bags, and there was not a swag bag left. There was not a Wen product left. There was nothing.
That's amazing.
It was crazy.
Wonderful.
But I want to give a shout out because, and I got to find out what the name of the company is, that the lip. There were a lot of wonderful things that were donated for our gift bags, but there was an amazing lip gloss. Some of them were blue, some of them were silver, that are like big with the celebrities. They were designer, fabulous. I will get you the names. So Mia went home with 3 bags that had those in it.
Nice,
so
very nice.
That was, plus we had the gold under eye things. There was a lot of beauty products in the gift bag. We digress. Okay. Shall we answer some questions?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Andrea, we're saying hi to you, and she wrote, hearts, the costumes, good morning, ladies. So thank you so much. This, I have to say, I lived in this on Saturday, was afraid to put it back on.
Comfortable, huh?
I thought I was going to have some PTSD, but it is like being in your bathrobe.
Yeah, I was, of course, John Lennon.
Yes.
And not only was my mustache coming off, but fortunately there were these wonderful artists
Yeah.
there who were doing the amazing various things.
Yeah.
And they had like the clown on stilts and all this, but they had really good glue. So they took care of my mustache. Then my wig kept coming off.
were
I
hilarious.
was like, oh my gosh.
Why don't we show the video that Chris has so lovingly put together? It's just a short video, but it's wonderful that you'll get a taste of
if
what
we're
it was.
able to today.
Are we able to do that? He says
Yes.
yes. And then we'll come back and we'll start answering your questions. So feel free to be writing in on whatever platform you're watching. Take a look at this. Thank you so much for
my
that, Chris
goodness.
Desmond. Hilarious. So you got to see Dr. Grandin. There were people who were at the party the whole time and never saw you and never realized that was you.
Yeah.
That they left and they were like, I didn't see Dr. Grampiche. And I was
Good
like,
thing.
what are you talking
At
about?
one point on the second time my wig was coming off, I was on the dance floor and I was trying to like put it back on and it was half off, half on, and my hair is long so it's hard to like keep it in there. And some lady came up to me while I was struggling and said, "Is that you, Dr. Grampiche?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm running out of here." It's funny.
Too funny. It was a really good time. And you know, everybody that was there were so many people and so many people in costume
Yeah.
that I was looking at that and I was like, I didn't see that person there. I didn't see
Yeah,
that costume.
yeah.
But you could see Kobe Bird was he was a cartoon drawing of himself.
It was such a great
amazing.
costume. Yeah.
Yeah, truly
Thank
amazing.
you very much, Chris. That was a great video.
Yeah, a great video. And I think there's going to be more too. But wonderful. And I do want to say that if you want to donate, go to the Instagram or the Facebook site, because there is a specific link that you want to donate on in order to be entered in that raffle to win one of the Temple Grandin books. And I'll also on Autism Live, I'll get the QR code for that posted later on today. So our topic today is Halloween and other scary holidays, because we're in it now, right?
Yeah,
Today's
absolutely.
Halloween, and then it's going to be all too quickly. Some of you will be celebrating Diwali in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Then we've got Thanksgiving. Then we've got Hanukkah, then we've got Christmas, and
That's
then New
right.
Year's. It's the gauntlet, right? No matter what you celebrate or don't celebrate, you got something coming up.
Right.
I love that they all have something to do with lights, right? Which can be great and also be difficult sensory wise.
That's true. That's
so if
true.
you have questions about any of that, that's our topic today. I want to start with the question, I just want to hug this person who wrote this in this morning. How do I get my son to understand trick-or-treating?
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Well, especially on the day of.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that, depending on, like, we have to think about this. Like, we have to modify things in a way that our kids get the feeling that we want out of it, right? So, like, the whole concept of trick-or-treating is a difficult concept because it has a lot of pretend and imaginary play or activity involved in it, and some of our kids are just not ready for that.
Yeah.
But the point of it for a child is to actually be able to, like, the fun part of it for kids, I think, is being able to get candy, for instance, right? So, as a parent of a special needs child, there's a bunch of stuff you can do to prepare for this. And it just takes a little bit more time. But if you do these things, I think your child can get the same fun out of it. I remember when my kids were very young and they're all in their 20s, there was this year where someone had started putting like razor blades inside candy and stuff like that. So it was a very scary time to go trick-or-treating. So I didn't want to take them that year anywhere trick-or-treating, but I would bring them to Card. And Card was at that time, 2 floors and had like lots of different people, and my kids were little and you could go door to door the offices. And also I had just kind of discovered that my son was allergic to dairy or casein. And so I wanted to make sure that he doesn't get treats that are going to affect him. And so I had kind of distributed the things that were already okay for him and the other kids to have. And not only that, but the kids would actually often bring their friends after school as well. And we all would, like 6 or 7 kids, and then they were allowed to go door to door through the office and then the other floor and do that. And just doing that allowed me to have safety and have the treats that were okay for them. And also it was actually kind of, in some ways, better because they got to come and share it with me every time, like in between, look what we got, that kind of thing. And so there's, to some extent, as parents of special needs kids, you'll have to do that. You'll have to make sure of safety. I'm not sure that, depending on, again, how much understanding there is, parents don't really ever explain the history of Halloween, because if we explain the history of Halloween to our kids, it goes kind of in a different direction than we want to. But what we do explain, even with typically developing kids, is this whole concept of, it is actually, a lot of people don't realize that this is a tradition that is across lots of religions, and it happens in different parts of the world. We do something very similar to Halloween in Iran. But in Iran, it occurs on a few, I've told you that we have this very long period of celebrating New Year, right? Which is in spring equinox. And the Tuesday night or Wednesday before New Year, children would cover themselves with a burqa. So it wasn't costumes, but it was with a burqa. Because, nobody wore burqas in those days. Very few people did. But you'd cover yourself, and then you would take pots and pans and you hit them walking down the street, and people would hear the pots and pans and would come out and give you treats. As opposed to going up to each door and saying trick or treats. But it's the same concept, right? So it's kind of like just teaching the basics to our kids of whatever it is. And sometimes kids you don't have to have the child go up and actually, if it's a nonverbal child, they don't have to go up and say trick or treat. They could be with other children, which is nice. It's a nice peer activity for them. They could be with you. A lot of times I would go with my kids, obviously, and nonverbal children could even just have a sign as part of their costume, for instance. You know, I think more importantly is making sure that the treats they get are okay for them, right? And that's sort of how you do it.
Yeah. There's a part in my book where I talk about Halloweens, and I've gotten more people talking about this than any other thing in the book. It's so fascinating to me. But my son didn't have candy. We had been, even before he was diagnosed with autism, because there's so much diabetes in my family, the pediatrician made me promise that I would never give him full strength juice. He started by saying, don't give him juice. And I was like, don't give him juice?
Yeah.
And he said, all right, well, water it down at least 50%. But he put the fear in me that Jem was going to have diabetes. He said, and we don't want it to be juvenile diabetes, like, be very careful. So he didn't have any candy at all. Not even, you know, just the sugar. We're not even talking about the artificial flavors at that point, which later on I became very concerned about.
Yeah.
So we took him trick-or-treating. He didn't know what candy was.
Yeah.
He thought it was colored paper, and he thought it was pretty.
Yeah.
But what we did was we instituted this thing in our house where he liked Legos. And in the beginning, it was the Duplos,
There
right?
you go.
But so we told him that, you know, you get all the candy in your bucket, and we go home and we put it in a special bowl on the dining room table, and we leave it there, and the Lego fairy will come and take it, because the Lego fairy loves candy, and that when you get up in the morning, there will be a Lego in its place on the dining room table. Well, then my niece decided, I don't want my kids to have candy, so she had the Barbie fairy.
There you go.
And you can make it,
awesome.
and the younger they are when you institute this.
Yeah.
But I've seen people do this with a 15-year-old and say, we're not going to do the candy, but they switch it for something that they would like more.
That's more valuable to the child, absolutely.
But I've taken a lot of guff. They're like, you didn't let your son have candy? Listen, that's the best thing I ever did.
I was going to say, it turned out to be a really great thing.
My son now has sugar, and he has, but, you know, he'll say, oh, I'd like some Skittles. And he'll go buy one of the little things of Skittles. He'll have 2 of them, and that bag will sit there until it rots.
There you go.
But it has to be thrown away. And if we went to Disneyland, he couldn't wait to have one of the space milk things, and he had like 2 sips of it, and he went, wow, it's really sweet. I'm not going to be able to eat sugar for days.
Yeah.
I went, who are you and who are you related to?
No, it's funny. Certain things that are too sweet, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a very good habit that he didn't develop this habit of
very
sugar. Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
So don't be afraid to switch those
You know,
rules.
the other part of, I think, what we need to talk about and is also part of the trick-or-treating, but is more related to what I think most of our kids experience is being afraid.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a big part of getting our kids ready for Halloween is understanding that, like, let's say all the props and like things that are out there or scary costumes are supposed to be funny, fun, and not necessarily scary to begin with, you know? So I think that's another part of it as well. You know what I always find amazing with your son is that not only was he, I guess, not afraid of those things, but then later he became someone who was an actor in
Halloween Horror Nights.
Halloween Horror Nights, yeah.
Yeah, I would be so proud. I'd say, what'd you do tonight? And he was like, oh, I was the person who ripped the girl's face off.
I love that. I love that.
I was
oh
like,
my gosh.
Oh, I'm a proud mom. Hey, you know what we didn't do? We didn't thank the sponsors for the All Girls Gala, and we have to take a second because you reminded me of it. We were talking about scary decorations because one of our sponsors for the event was an amazing gentleman who does decoration for holidays.
Yes.
Dr. Halloween, who I guess in about 5 days he becomes Dr. Xmas.
Oh, does he? That's amazing.
And apparently, like, if you saw some of the decorations and animatronics that we had, it was off the chain. It was
it was pretty
totally
amazing stuff,
But apparently his Christmas is even bigger and better.
Wow.
So I know, if you need Christmas decorations. But thank you to Bob, Dr., otherwise known, a.k.a. Dr. Halloween.
He was amazing, and we loved the decorations. Thank you very much. But I also want to thank some of our other sponsors. We had sponsorship last year and this year from UBS and from JP Morgan, and I want to thank both of them. They both did that kind of as a favor to me, and I really appreciate it because it helped our event very,
Yes.
very significantly. The CPA firm, Duffy Crisputa, and they were wonderful, and they came in with a very big donation. One of our own board members, Bill Cernius, donated, I think, $20,000, which is
Wow.
amazing. And I want to thank Joe Mantegna. He gave us a check for $5,000 at the event.
Yes, which
I thought was
so
wonderful.
generous.
Very
from
generous.
his foundation.
Right.
And Nevers Palazzo.
Nevers, Palazzo, Packard, Maddox. I never can tell their whole name, but
There's
they're
like Windmuth and yes.
and
And
NPW,
Weiner.
NPW law firm, and they are
Amazing.
my long time kind of consultants, advisors, lawyers, consigliere. Don Palazzo, I call him my consigliere. He couldn't be there himself. Nobody from Nevers could be there, but they made a very generous donations. We're very, very grateful to them as well. All of our sponsors are the folks, honestly, that make it possible for us to do this, because the sponsorships cover really the cost of the party, the event, and then all the additional funding that we are able to generate through our ticket sales and through the folks who donate at the event and after the event is the money that goes directly to the kids, and that's quite a lot. And one of the things, not to go back to the party again, but one of the things that I think was my favorite, and I think we should do it every year,
Yes.
was that we hired this company that had some really wonderful different people doing different things, including a clown on stilts. But the thing that I loved was this lady who was actually dressed as Mary Poppins, and she had a table around her which moved.
Yeah.
And on this table, we had the stories of the children we were sponsoring. And I think she did really great walking around, and the children and the people were able to see the children and donate for the children.
Which was amazing.
I loved that. That was the best.
I think that was one of my favorite things too.
That was great.
Truly amazing. So we want to thank all of those sponsors that made that possible. Somebody wanted to know, what do you ladies think of the blue pumpkin thing? Are you aware of the blue pumpkin controversy?
Yeah, all I know is that it's out there and it's kind of a symbol of autism, right? Is there more that I need to know?
Well, it started out, it was a teal pumpkin, and you put it, this was years ago, and you were to put the teal pumpkin outside your house as a signal that you were a sensory-friendly experience and that you had things that you were giving out that they could request that were other than candy. That was the original idea. Then someone, I think Walmart and a couple of other people.
I saw it at Walmart,
thought, okay, let's make blue pumpkins for the kids to carry around to get their candy that will signal, I'm somebody who has sensory needs, I might need
I'm special needs, whatever it is.
Right, whatever. And it was meant to be a thing, but of course, the backlash on it is just insane. A lot of people that I love have been posting things saying this is a step backwards, it's labeling our kids. Why do we have to have a blue pumpkin to get people to be kind to our kids and to be patient with our kids? And, my thing is, look, I loved that Thomas McKeon wrote last night and did a whole post on it, and he said, everybody's asking me what I think about this, and he said, here's what I think about this. If you need this for your child and you think it'll help your child, you should do it. And if you think that this labels your child negatively, you should not do it.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
And I just loved it because
Absolutely.
the first 2 years that we took Jem trick-or-treating, I would have welcomed that blue pumpkin.
Yeah.
For the lady that I was trying to get him to be with friends and go house to house with friends, and the kids all said trick-or-treat, and the woman gave all the other ones candy, and she said, you need to say trick-or-treat. And she looked at Jem, and Jem looked at her, and I said, he's working on that. And she goes, well, you have to force them. And she goes, here's the candy, say trick or treat. And I lost it on her, and I said, at the time, we were saying autistic, then later we changed our minds and says has autism, but at the time, I said, he's autistic, okay? And then, of course, she felt like an idiot and threw the candy in his bucket, and I felt like I just outed him. He's 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did I need to tell her that? And everybody could hear us, and we were behind now for the other kids, and man, if I'd had that blue pumpkin, I just would have been like, notice the blue pumpkin, put the candy in, honey, let's go.
Yeah.
And not have to be yelling it on the street.
Yeah.
Then years later, he would have said to me, I don't want the blue pumpkin. I want to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you
yeah,
know.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, there's so many good, you've pointed out so many different perspectives about that. I feel like when I saw it first, when I first saw it and heard about it, learned about it, I just thought, oh, this is a nice kind of peaceful way to let people know that this child needs a little bit additional care.
Yeah.
Right? Like a little bit, like be kinder, be more giving, be more allowing with this particular child. And I hadn't thought about the fact that it kind of segregates the child or stigmatizes, I should say, the child. I thought, if I know kids, I saw a video this morning that made me very emotional because it was this little boy. I'm not sure, I was looking at stuff online and I don't know how this came up on my feed, but it was a little boy who I guess came from a very socioeconomically challenged family, and it was his 8th birthday, and he enters the classroom, and the classroom starts singing happy birthday for him, and he's never had a birthday up to that point, and he starts to cry, and then all the children literally run and hug him, right? And I think children are so giving and loving and understanding that if they had one child who was carrying a blue pumpkin, I would imagine that if that child felt awkward, all the other children would be willing to also carry blue pumpkin. You know, I feel like we, in our minds, we take things and we give it too much meaning. I think it was intended to be a kind thing, and we should just let it be a kind thing.
I like, if you want it, do it. If you don't,
don't.
Let other people do it. Okay, we got a bunch of questions we have to get to. One that I promised I would get to. I'm a regular viewer of your show, Ask Dr. Doreen. You two are a beacon of hope in an endless world of worry and fatigue. Thank you for what you do and for sharing your knowledge and experiences. I'm from the Bahamas, and my 3-year-old, who has the same name as your youngest, I'm not going to say it here, was diagnosed a year ago with ASD. We are looking to relocate to the U.S. to get her better treatment. I see how much you admire and respect Dr. Doreen, because I do, and attribute her and Card to being the difference in your son's life. I want the same thing for her and believe that Dr. Doreen's expertise can change the trajectory of her life. Can you share the center's information, and would you recommend the move to LA for ABA services? And thank you for taking the time to respond.
That's so nice, and thank you very much. I'm not sure that, and we would love to help your child and especially guide you in what you should do. I'm not sure LA is necessarily the best place right now. I mean, I'll be very transparent. I just took Card back. I don't know which Card sites have capacity or able to take patients. I do know where some of my best supervisors are. If I had to select a location or a region, I would say look at the Orange County region of California, which is halfway between Los Angeles and San Diego. That area, I have a lot of very, very strong supervisors who are BCBAs who've been with the company for many, many, many years. And if I had to place my child with someone, I'd pick one of them. And where they are, they're going to have very well-trained BTs and so on. But depending on when you make the move, just reach out to us, and we'd love to guide you and help you.
I always say to people, if you're coming to California, let us know 3 months at least in advance.
Right.
So that we can help you to negotiate, like, because especially when you move to California, it's just, I've lived different places in the world, as have you. It's different here. The rules are different here. It's just harder to set up utilities than it is anywhere in the world. That sounds,
really?
Yes. It takes longer. It's so much easier. If you're in Denver, you just call and they hook up your power.
That's so interesting.
And in LA, they're like, we'll get to you in 20 days.
Okay, well, so I have a very different experience living in Florida, because I live in Florida now. And maybe it's because I live in a very small community, a very small island, but everything takes, it's a lot slower.
And you had 2 hurricanes? Was it 2 hurricanes?
Well, we've had every year we have a hurricane, but yeah.
I think that might be playing a role in it.
Yeah.
I want to get to, Andrea says, my 4-year-old son is in a full-time ABA center. We're doing biomedical treatments for him. Recently, he started to have some behaviors that I have not seen in a while. I went to the center and could smell the plugins in use. Is it okay to address the fact that these could be contributing to behaviors? Is it okay to ask a center to not use them? Or is this over the top nuts of me? And Andrea, you and I are related somewhere.
You should absolutely tell them that you think the plugins might be contributing, that he's sensitive to them. But, and they won't mind. If they mind, there's a problem there. Like, you know, as providers of help and treatment for kids, we should be very understanding of these things. But are you sure that it's the plugins? Like, I want you to actually also evaluate if it could be something else. And it, you know, potentially when you have a child at a center, they could be observing other kids and mimicking some of the other kids' behaviors as well. So perhaps like really pay attention and see what's going on. It's always very important for us to attend when our kids start to show behaviors they haven't in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Esther has written in and said, I had a question. My son is in the special day preschool class through the school district, and I want him to be in the gen ed kindergarten next year. How is the best way to prepare him for that, and also how to make a case for that at his IEP in the spring? Thank you so much for all that you do.
That's so wonderful that you are at a point now where you can try to push your child forward, which is always lovely. I think I would go about it very kind of methodically. I would start by looking at the gen ed requirements for next year, let's say, that you're aiming for, right? And it's not so much about convincing the school, it's more about making sure your child is prepared. And if your child is prepared, your school will easily be convinced. So you need to get the requirements, go through and make sure that he's going to be able to succeed with not just the academic requirements, so whatever class it is or grade it is, you know, you want to make sure that he's going to be able to keep up with, he knows the basics, let's say, of the math required, of the reading, English, all of the academic aspects, but more so also just being able to receive instruction from one teacher in different scenarios. Like when there's chaos, is he able to pay attention and you know, listen to and find the teacher's voice when there's 20 other kids making a loud noise, and then do what the teacher says? Is he able to pay attention to the board if there's something else going on in the classroom? You know, make sure that he is going to have success. And if you feel that he needs a little bit of support, I would start there, and I would really I would ask for an IEP. You can get into general ed with an IEP. That might be the way to go. Usually that's the way we do it, is that for our children, we don't just kind of transfer them to general ed. We get into gen ed, but we have an IEP, we have an aide if the child needs a one-to-one aide. A lot of times I like to provide the aide, but even if the school provides the aide and the aide is someone who's trained and who is also involved in the child's care, the child's overall treatment plan, then they'll know how to prompt the child without making the child stand out. We have this whole lecture I do on transitioning to school, you know, and it's all about preparation for the child, but also doing it in a way that doesn't make the child feel they're different. Because remember, when a child is at this point in functioning, they're very, very aware. You want them to be very aware. So one of the things that you're trying to not throw in their face is you're different.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that if there is a one-to-one aide, the aide is also helping other kids, is also aiding the teacher. These are some of the ways we used to actually, teachers wouldn't want us in the classroom the whole time, but we would promise help. And our aide would actually be like the teacher's assistant and would help and do whatever the teacher wanted. as well as take care of our child, support our child, help our child when they needed a little bit of additional assistance. But I think that's what you do, and yes, you go to the IEP and you just want to show there's lots of different ways. If you have a difficult school district, and if you have hesitation and you think they're not going to let him into gen ed, then I would really suggest standardized testing before the IEP, which you can get, academic testing, language testing, just to show that the child is at the point where, achievement tests are basically what schools do, just to show that your child is capable of that class grade level, and take that with you to the IEP. You can still ask for accommodations at the IEP and be in gen ed. So ask for a lot of accommodations. If your child needs additional time for tests, if your child needs to know the homework or the material the day before the teacher is going to present it, ask for that. These are all accommodations that teachers and schools will make so that your child is successful.
Yeah. This is a really pivotal time, right?
Very important time.
Yeah, in your child's education, and you're going to be setting a precedent with the school district. And I talk to parents all the time who are afraid to make waves.
Yeah.
And I always say, get in there and splash.
Oh, make waves.
Splash it up.
Yeah.
Because you need to let them know that you know your rights. There's a thing that before your IEP, you can ask for it ahead of time, but they will offer it to you right then. There's a place on the IEP that they have to check off that they offered it to you and gave it to you. It's a pamphlet that's your rights. And I suggest that you get that ahead of time and flip through it, because it's a very good resource.
Yes.
I can tell you, I can send you to 22 different websites, but they legally have to give it to you.
Yes.
And it will detail for you that it's so funny, because school's going to tell you a whole bunch of things. I love school. I'm a former school teacher. But the administrators, I'd like to stick them all in a Cuisinart and push the button that says liquefy. I'm sorry, that's Halloweeny, isn't it? That's inappropriate. But they frustrate me because they will tell you things that are not true. Like they will tell you, well, we can't start that in the fall. We'll have to wait until holiday. That's a lie. You have a right, your child has a right to a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment in which they can have a floor of opportunity to access the curriculum with supports.
Yeah.
They're not going to drill that home to you because they don't want to pay for the 1-to-1 aid.
Yeah.
And they have more money right now than they've ever had before.
This is true. This is true. And you have a lot of options, and don't allow an administrator to make you think you don't. I think that's what happens. You do have a lot of rights. In fact, if you go with the law, the school districts in the U.S. are amazing. Like, we have a lot of rights. And so you need to know your rights. I think you can actually even look that up, right? Special needs children rights in education.
It's something called rights law, WRIGHTS law, and they have it all there. You can also find, it's very hard to find right now, but it's there, the .gov.edu, the IEP, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, it's all there.
The Free and Appropriate Education Act.
They make it really difficult to find, but it's there. I just the other day was on it, finding the quote for somebody directly from the mothership that says that the child has a right not only to those things, but in the school that they would have attended had they not had a disability. Because this family, they were saying that we have to bus him an hour each way.
Yeah.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
Let me find that quote for you. But it's really important, and if you can afford it, I recommend getting an advocate or an attorney.
I do too.
Right before going
Makes
in
a big
kindergarten.
difference.
And people go, but then I'm going to have to get that every year. No. You show force first, and they will give you what you want the rest of the year.
Yeah, and
the years.
Yes, and we also don't know what your child will need next year. So take it a year at a time, and it's helpful the first year to have an advocate or an attorney, because there's a lot of stuff, and one of the things I highly recommend is to ask to record the whole IEP.
Oh, yes.
That's usually pretty helpful because you can go back and share that with an advocate if you don't have one present.
Absolutely.
And that is helpful for guidance.
You need to you need to tell them, you don't ask for, you tell them, but it has to be at least 48 hours before the IEP that you're going to record. Because if you don't, they will tell you that you cannot record. That is the legal thing. So what I always tell parents is when you get the IEP invitation that says, here's when we want to have it, will you attend or won't you attend, to reply and say, yes, I will attend, and I am giving you official notice that I will be recording the meeting.
Right.
So that then it's handled.
Yep.
And then if you get there and you decide, I forgot, I don't have my phone, because you can record right on your phone, or if you decide for some reason you don't want to record, you have that option. But especially your first 5 IEPs, record those things, because I will tell you, they're going to make a mistake. They say things they shouldn't. They say things that are illegal. And once they do that, you've pretty much won.
That's right. And, I know there's lots of mixed feelings about Autism Speaks, but I do think they have a pretty good section on IEPs for parents. It's one of those resources where I think you need to really know your child's rights when you go into the IEP. That's the most important thing you can do. But
they have those, the procedural rights.
They give it to you.
They have to give it to you, and you can ask for it now, and I think that's the best first place to start. It outlines, you'll go, I can't believe that it's all right here. Everything that I need to do to argue to win this argument, for him to go to a mainstream classroom with an aide, it's right in the piece of paper that they have to give you. Nobody ever reads that thing. I'm on a kick
it's
now.
Because they usually give it to you in the middle of the meeting, and it's fine print, and it's a couple of pages. Yeah.
So ask for it now. They have to give it to you.
Yeah.
So amazing. And we're just about out of time here. But I wanted to take just a second and say about ACT. Today's the last day of the open grant phase. If you needed a grant from ACT today, you have till the end of today to get one of those grants in. Can you take just a minute to talk about why you founded ACT and the things that it does?
Oh, I'd love to talk about ACT. I'm so proud of this organization and also just the board members who've been around for a very long time, like Bill Cernius. Has always been very helpful. I think that we founded this years ago, and today it's the same thing. Like, even though there are a lot of services funded for kids on the spectrum, there are a lot of things that parents end up having to pay. And I just feel like it's not fair, and a lot of parents cannot afford to pay these things. And I wish I had more time, because one of the things that as a board, excuse me, we all used to do was we would sit around, I'm going to bring this back, we would sit around and read all the grant applications individually, if you remember. That was one of the best things we did, and it was once a quarter, and we would spend the entire day reading grant applications, and it was amazing, and it was we learned. We learned how many parents out there are struggling. And we had this, parents were writing in stories and telling us just incredible things. Like, I am a single mom. My annual income is $20,000. I have 2 children on the spectrum. I need help with fencing around my house because one of my children elopes, runs away, and it's dangerous. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so it was very clear that we needed to do something to help. And we started a long, long time ago. And my gosh, I think, honestly, I should look it up, Shan, because I think this might have been our 20th year.
Wow.
Yeah. And we started looking and saw that, hey, we can raise funds in lots of different ways. One of the ways that we continuously raise funds is through Amazon. If you go on Amazon and through Amazon Smile, they have a charity donation page where you can just put in Autism Care Today. We are a 501c3 charity, and everything you buy, Amazon, like 2 cents of it or something goes to us through Amazon. So
that adds up.
It does add up, and you know, it adds up to a couple thousand a month, which is really good, and that helps children, because our grants are usually $5,000 grants, up to $5,000 per child per grant period. And so it started as, I think initially, I'm not sure if we ever had any categories. It was just any kind of help that you need, right? And it very quickly became clear that the categories of help are specific things that parents ask for over and over. And they ended up being iPads. Initially, there was a lot of iPads. I remember we would actually, one of our board members would actually go out and give the iPad to the family, which is always a lovely thing. And so the iPads allow our kids to communicate, those nonverbal kids, and or to have some recreational activity. The second one became safety equipment. I remember that very quickly. It was fencing. We had actually arrangements with fencing companies, helmets for kids who are self-injurious, all kinds of safety equipment, alarms on doors for kids who are car seats, all kinds of stuff that had to do with safety. And then, of course, from there, it went on and became co-pays, because when you get anything like speech therapy or ABA, specifically because it's so frequent, you have a lot of co-pays that add up. So ACT right now, the current one, is very focused on co-pays, because a lot of parents will reduce their ABA sessions just because they can't afford the copay, which is insane. So we like to cover your copays for you. And also, we pay for medical bills, we pay for labs, we pay for stimulus materials, anything that helps support your child. We buy OT supplies, those types of things. So please do write into us, ACT Today. You can look us up, Autism Care Today. It is act-today.org. We'd love to be able to support you, and we'd love to receive your help. If you are able to donate, by the way, we're all volunteering here, and we get almost all of the money out to kids. So please, if you can donate to us, we'd love to be able to use your funds to support some other families.
There we go. All right, that's all the time we have today, but we're so excited that we got to spend this time with you guys. We hope that you have a happy and safe Halloween with yourself and your kids, and we'll be back next week.
Yes.
Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Happy Halloween. Okay. Now you're off on a